Yo, what is going on, y'all? We back at it again with another new bro tutorial. Now, what we're going to be talking about today is our ship tree and ship fittings. So when we first start, the ship tree is going to be your best friend. You will probably spend multiple hours inside of this ship tree looking at all the different ships, see what you have unlocked, the future, what you want to work towards. Of course, you have your four main empires. You have your Amarr, you have Caldari, which I'm a fan of, missile boats, Gallente Federation, and Minmatar Republic. Then you have your mining, your ore corporation. Now, only ore does mining ships, only ones in the game. And then, of course, you have your pirates that kind of coincide with the four factions as well. Then you have Sisters of Eve, which are separate on their own, Marauders Legion, Triglavian Collective, and Edencom. So, but as a new player, especially if you're alpha, you're just going to be stuck with not stuck, but you have access to 5, 10. I believe you should have access to Sisters of Eve as well. So, I believe you have 11 different factions to choose from and play with. So, but it's all about what you want to do in the game. What race you picked really doesn't matter in the beginning. Where you live, it's all about the ship type. For example, Amarr ships, they use energy turrets. Caldari, they use missiles and they use hybrid turrets. Gallente, they use hybrid turrets, especially. And Minmatar, they use projectile turrets. So, depending on the type of ship that you want to fly, is a type of weapons damage that will go with it. So, just bounce back and forth between ships and types of different factions. That hinders your skill training. So, a lot of times, find a ship style that you enjoy from a specific race, and then kind of stick with that until you start leveling up with your skills, and you could cross skill to fly different ships. But as a new bro, I always recommend find one that you like and kind of stick with it for a bit. Me, when I started, I picked Caldari. Like I said, I like missiles. So Minmatar also uses missiles. I'm going to say projectiles, turrets, and as well as missiles. So they use both, but mainly projectiles. But most ships in each class will use missiles. Like this Bellicruise uses missiles, and its other cruiser buddy uses projectile turrets. So, but like I said, I'm going to start on Caldari, missile boats, and they use missiles and hybrid turrets. So they use two types as well. So I want to be starting on this one, and then we're going to just look at ship fittings and give you some quick do's and don'ts and small little tricks and tips to make your ship fitting a lot smoother. So for starters, I'm going to just start off with something basic, a T1 frigate. Which will automatically be unlocked with getting level 1 skill. So we're going to go to simulate ship. Either we could just right click the actual ship, and it'll bring up the menu. Like always, right click is your best friend in this game. Always gives you information. So you can either simulate the ship right there, or if you have the information up on it, you have your drop down bars as always. And just click that once, and simulate ship will be on the top. So we're going to simulate the ship. And when you're simulating the ship, I always kind of recommend that you have this frigate information, whatever ship it is, right next to you. Just keep it around. You move it to the side a little bit, wherever you want. And a couple rules of thumb. Well, what I like to do. I like to be able to see my entire simulated ship area. Some of these tabs might be closed, like these. These might be closed. Open everything. Make sure everything's dropped down, because it'll be useful for what you're going to be doing. As well as this side. It might be collapsed. Make sure it's not collapsed. Have everything open. Now, one of the main things you want to make sure that is checked as a new player when you're fitting your ships is this last tab right here. It says filter. Filter skills. Only show modules you have the skills to use. That is very important, because if it's unchecked, every single module and every style will be available to you to put into your ship fitting. But then if you happen to buy that ship and you try to fly it, you won't be able to unline certain items because you're not skilled for it. So always have this last box checked for filter skills. Make sure it's checked so that it'll only filter the items that you're able to use. That'll save you headache in the long run and disappointment. So like I said, we're starting off with our frigate, working in this Condor. The reason I like the information up is because you could get all the information you need from this section. So you always want to start off at the traits. The traits, it'll tell you the ship characteristics. It uses small modules. Attack, hull is good with damage, mobility, recommended for hit and run and pursuits. But what you really want to check is usually the last one, shields. Defensive systems that utilizes medium level fittings slots and regenerates slowly on its own. So this uses shields. In the game, there's a couple different types of, there's shields, ships that use only shields, ships that uses armor, and there's also hull tanking as well. No ship is, let's see here, what can I say? Dedicated for hull tanking, but even though there are hulls out there that can accommodate it very efficiently. But in general, your ship's either going to use shields or armor. Now Caldari, they use shields. Amarr ships, they use armor. Gallente, they use armor as well. Minmatar, depending on the ship, they could use both, one or the other. A lot of times you could use either or with these ships. They're versatile. So like I said, we're going to be doing a Condor. So we're going to be making this a shield fit ship. Now, as you're starting in your fittings, like I said, you always want to take a look at the bonuses that you have for your ship, because the bonuses are perks. Every ship bonus is different, and it utilizes certain skills that other ships won't have. And then you could basically make your ship more efficient knowing what bonuses you have. So this frigate gets a 10% kinetic light missile and rocket damage per skill level. So when you're leveling your Caldari frigates, level 1 you get 10%, then when you get to level 2 there's another 10%, level 3 another 10%, etc., etc. And the roll bonus. Now this roll bonus is just an overall roll bonus for your ship. It doesn't increase per skill level like this one does. If it is, it will say it up under it. But yeah, just roll bonuses will not. So, but this has an 80% reduction in propulsion jamming systems activation costs. So those are like your mid slots for your warp scrambler, your warp disruptor. That's basically keep people from running away. But it uses reduction in most like CPU and power grid to use. Okay, so with that being said, now you could start fitting in one or two ways. You could either, what I like to do, I just like to click on an empty slot, and then at that point, the fitting area will have only the items you could put inside of your high slot, which is perfect. You don't want to be scrolling down, then you got a little mid slot in there. Personally, I like to just click on the modules I want to be working on. There is a section in here to where everything is just open. It will be everything in there. High, medium, low, then you just kind of filter through what you want. You'd probably do that later once you're more accustomed to the game and how these menus work. So yeah, just click on any high slot up here, and like I said, it'll filter what you want. Now your high slots are always your guns or neutralizers, whatever it might be. We're not looking for smart bombs. We want turrets and launchers, since this is a missile ship. Now we see that we have different options. There's cruise missiles. Cruise missiles cannot fit on this ship. Heavy assault missiles cannot fit. Heavy launchers cannot fit. As we see, this uses light missiles and rockets. So we need light missile launchers and or rocket launchers. Now you're going to see rapid heavy missiles and rapid light missile launchers. These are not made for this ship. You cannot fit them. You always got to pay attention. Light missiles, light missile launcher. rockets, or rocket launchers. So basically you got an option of using two types of weapon systems. So there are slight differences in them. Usually light missile launchers, they could shoot further, but have a slower fire rate time. Rocket launchers, they have a faster fire rate, but shorter range. So since this is a Condor, we're just want to go with rockets. Now there's, if you're a new bro, you're going to be using Tech 1s. Tech 1s or Meta. You won't have your Tech 2 unlocked most likely. Typically when you get your things up to level 5, then your Tech 2 will unlock at that point. So in general, as you can see, as we scroll down to each one, your CPU and power grid is going to change between each one. So a regular rocket launcher uses, let's see how it's getting, it changes for each one. So it's just depending on your fittings and your skill, it's kind of what you end up using. So just for this, we'll just use, just rocket launcher ones. Double click until it's full. So we can only fit 3 on this ship, only 3. And basically you have a utility slot here now. Now the next thing you want to work on, you either work on your low slot or your mid slots. That's up to you. Personally, I like to take care of my tank first. So I'm going to click on the low slot. And now everything for our low slot pops in. Most people use something called a damage control unit. As you can see, if you look up at just look at our shields, because our shields is what this ship is main. This is armor and this is hull. We don't really care about these at all, because once our shields are gone, we're dead. End of story. So we just want to always look at our shields. We put our damage control unit in there. Okay, you see how the resists go up for each one. So since this is a T1 ship, we want to put our IFFA damage control unit in there, and that locks in and gives us a little bit more better resist across the board for our shields. Perfect. Now, depending on what you're using this Condor for, if you're going to be doing PvP or PvE, but if you're a brand new bro, you're probably going to be doing a couple missions. So we're not going to be worrying about a warp scrambler with this propulsion jamming bonus, because we're not hunting other players. Propulsion jamming is not needed for NPCs. So we want to tank this thing. So personally, I like to always put in my prop first. Your propulsion, you can have your afterburners or your micro warp drives. Micro warp drives typically use a lot more CPU and power grid compared to an afterburner. But if you're starting off, an afterburner would be just fine. As well, every type will have a different usage on your CPU and power grid. And so we could use 1 MNs for frigates. 10 MNs usually start around cruisers, etc. But you could overprop those in a later time when you understand more about that. So I'm going to put 1 afterburner in there, or 1 MN, YS8. And now we want to fill the rest of this in with a tank. So depending where you're at in space and the rats that you'll be fighting with your missions, each of them has a specific damage type that they deal, or that they shoot at you. So a lot of times you see how we have holes in a way on each one. So we have our EM damage resistance is only at 10%. Our thermal is at 28, our kinetic is at 46, and our explosion resistance is at 55. So if we're fighting an enemy that uses primarily EM damage, this will chew through us very quickly. So we always want to take a peek at what we're fighting against and potentially plug any holes with the piece of tank that will accommodate it. So what we're going to do, we're just going to put a multispectral shield hardener in it, just because. Now see how it raised, it was at 10, now it's at 37, and it raised them all likewise. So at this point, I'm good with that. And we go to our shield hardeners. Now what shield hardeners do, it raises your shield hit points. Now right now we're at 500 hit points. And remember, this said we use small modules. But sometimes you get away with mediums if you have enough CPU and power grid. That's something for you to play around with later. So we'll put one. We'll put 2 of them in there. So see how our shield hit points is at 1625 now? That's how many hit points we could take. But it's also depending on how much our resist are. So let's just say someone's shooting thermal damage at us. So that means we will absorb 50% of whatever damage they are dealing. So basically, if they're shooting us with 100 DPS of thermal, it's just an example, they will only give damage of 50 at that point. So only 50 will be lost on our HP hit points. Okay. So we have one more slot. At this time, I like to do damage mods. Oh, and before we get there, when you put your launchers in, put your ammo in. Putting your ammo in is very good because you can see the improvements when you do damage mods. So in order to find the ammo type that you could put in while you simulate the ship, right here where it says charges, because you're on modules right now, go right next door, it says charges. Charges will be your ammo, and anything that requires some kind of ammo to be put into a slot, it will be in charges. Now you see you got this big old huge list of everything. You don't have to go through all of that. What you do, you see a picture of your launcher right here. What you do, you click on your launcher, and at that point it will bring up all the charges that you're able to use for these rockets only. Because if you don't have that clicked, you can start opening everything in the game. These crystals are not for the ship, these are not for the ship, and you could just start running around everything, and you can find missiles, but then you see it gets pretty chaotic pretty quick. You got the different types, so it's easier just to click on your actual module. This basically just shows the one that you have, and then it'll filter every single rocket that you could use in these, which makes life easy for you. If you're a new bro, there's no need to probably start off with faction missiles. They're useful, but not if you're doing level 1 missions. There's nothing wrong with using the basic items in the game. Don't rush to just get bigger ships because you think bigger is better or bigger guns are better. All ships are based off how good your skills are in your skill tree. The more skills that you complete, each ship progressively gets better each skill that you do. So always keep that in mind. And now remember, when it comes to our rocket types, remember this ship gets a bonus to kinetic missiles and rockets. So I want to just show something real quick. We put in some thermal rockets. We don't have a bonus to them, so we see right here we get a volley when all 3 are shot together, 136 hit points. But when we put our kinetic missiles in instead, that goes up to 204 hit points. So that's our bonus for this ship. But like we were saying, each level that you get with this Caldari frigate, your hit points are going to go up each time you level a skill. When you go up with this Caldari frigate, your damage is going to increase each time you level up for this ship. Now let's get back down to our low slot. So for missiles, our advanced damage modules are for our low slots. Go all the way down, and turrets and launchers. It says turrets and launchers for the front tops as well, and then you could open up this window. Now it's not like picking an ammo, it just won't tell you which ones you need for your missiles, but for your missiles it will have pictures. This is your ballistic control. These are for missiles. Now keep an eye on our 204 hit points. When we go between them, so we're gonna ballistic systems 1 gets up to 218 hit points, go to the meta one right below with the crosslink compact ballistic control, takes us to 221. But you also see they use different CPU as well. Power grid's the same, but different CPU. So the crosslink gives us more DPS and it uses less CPU. So this one's a no-brainer. We're using the crosslink. So now we're getting 221 hit points per volley. And if you want to see how fast your missiles shoot, oh, another rule of thumb, when you're looking at missiles by themselves, a lot of times, you can look at the stats on them by looking at your information, the little eye. When you go to attributes, you will see, okay, it shows it's getting 33. No, let's go to our Scourge. This is our kinetic. So our kinetic, the base of it, gets 33 hit points. But what you could also do to see how much it actually applies with your ship and bonuses, you don't click on the rockets themselves. That's just a standard. When you click on the charge information when it's attached to your ship, it will in fact take into account all of your skills and all of your bonuses that you have done. So remember how the base was 33, just looking at the rocket themselves? We're looking at now, it's at 68.6. See, everything in green is all the bonuses for this ship that you have. So every time you want to look at the stats of some ammo or your launchers, click on them inside the fitting once you have it fitted to this ship. I know it's a simulation, but it's the same as in the real. So this is the same for the rocket launcher time. The fire rate is 3.46 seconds. But if we would have looked at that normally, which rocket launcher? We have rocket launcher 1. The rate of fire is 5 seconds as its default base. But with the bonuses that, well, I currently have, the fire rate is now at 3.46 seconds instead of 5. So always load everything into your ship so you can know how much actual damage you're getting. So you won't have to pull out a calculator and start guessing and all that type of good stuff. All right, now, since we got our base done for our ship, we have our rigs. Now, our rigs could be basically whatever we need. If we needed more CPU or power grid, they got rigs for that. If we needed more shields, there's rigs for that, which we'll most likely just do it for our shields. And you can also hover over the actual weapons themselves and it'll tell you how far your missiles or rockets will shoot and the damage that it does. So we see we have 37 rockets per launcher. It will shoot a maximum of 10 kilometers. And the damage is 21.2 per second. So there we go. But in general, we can always look at our offense here, and it'll give us the overall DPS with the volley. Total damage from your weapons simultaneously volley damage. So you always want to lock all your launchers together so they shoot together. So in this scenario, like I said, we could always put we could put shield rigs to make our tank a little bit higher, or we actually put in some more damage dealing boosters for our rockets, which will probably do both. Let's do both here. Now, it was depending if you just want more damage. Like we could put a damage mod right here. It would take us up to 240 from 221 to 240. Or if we want a little bit longer range, we put a rocket fuel cache. Now take us up to 12 kilometers that we could shoot. So there's multiple things. Oh, your rigs is kind of how you want to fine tune your ship, find out what you need to make it the most efficient for you. What I like to do, I'll just put another little damage booster on there. Get it up there so we have one rig. And also you could just drag and drop everything. Eve, drag and drop everything. Now, depending on the space you're living in, if you happen to run across like drone sites, drones do omni damage. That means they do damage on all 4 types. So what I'm going to do, you see we have a small hole in our EM still. It's at 37%. I'm going to put a little bit more in that hole. So I'm going to put a EM shield reinforcer. And I'll take our EM up to 54 that it could resist. Now it's almost in line with all the other ones. So we just don't have a hole here no more. And we have that. I want to give us a little bit more hit points. So that'll be our extender. See how it's at 1625 right now. Now we're at 1868. Amazing. So now I think our base start off at 500. Now we're at 1,868 shield hit points with almost 50% resistance from any type of damage that comes in at us. But we see here we have one more slot. This is a utility high. When a weapon system doesn't take up the entire high slot rack, the rest is called a utility slot. So at this point we could put multiple things in here. You could put a salvager to collect Rex. We could put a neutralizer or a Nosferatu. A Nosferatu is that you steal capacitor from another ship, but it doesn't work for NPCs. Neutralizers, it takes capacitor away, but we also are not cap stable no more. So there's multiple things you use for a utility slot, but for this Condor, if we're doing like PvE and just doing missions and stuff like that, what would I put in here? I would probably put a salvager, just because it's not needed. If you're doing missions, you're probably not salvaging too much. But in general, your utility high, just clicking your high slide, you could go through a little different items that you could use. Some people put a auto targeting system. It'll just when it's turned on, it automatically targets hostile in range. So let's just put one of those just to fill it up. But in general, this is how you would fit a ship. Now always remember, always go to your charges, fill in the slot so you can see how much damage you're getting for everything. And at that point, you can see all your stats that you need. And like I said, we're not worried about your armor or your hull. These two rows are not important. Only thing we're worried about are shields, because we're a shield-based ship. And at that point, if you like your fit, you always go to save as, click it once. You could change the name of it and just hit save. And once you do that, if you ever want to know where it's at again, you can either come in your holes and fits, but sometimes it's kind of don't know where to look. It's kind of difficult to find. So what I usually do, there's a section called fitting management. I'm not sure if it's default. This little side HUD bar thing is typically on the left when you first start the game. Let's see, this would be up under ships. Yeah, it's up under ships. Fitting management. You can actually pull this out, click and hold, then you can just drop it in on the side. That's what I did because I use this quite a bit. Where to go? So I like to go to my ship fittings, and it'll pull up all of them. They're all right here. And then this was a frigate. These were my personal fittings. Frigates are right here. We had our Condor. You click on it, it'll show you all the fits that you did. Then you just go to simulate again, and it'll bring it right back. All right, y'all. Well, I hope this was helpful for you to be fitting your ships. If you have any questions, feel free to throw them down in the comments. And either someone in the comments will help you out, or I will get back to you as well. But in general, I hope this helps out when you're doing your fittings. Like I said, it's always just small things that we want to utilize and figure out. The big stuff comes naturally. All right, y'all. We'll see you out there.